Is it time to buy your own property, own your own investment? What are you thinking? As a first-time buyer, you sometimes think to yourself, it will take forever to earn the amount of money that I can buy my own place, or to have enough deposit to buy my own place. A lot of people can afford to buy, but they just can't save up that all-important deposit. Or they've got the deposit as a gift, maybe from mum and dad, but they just can't afford to actually pay the mortgage. I've got a solution for you. I really, really do. So who am I? My name is Manda Walker and I am the mortgage coach. I believe everyone has a right to own their own home. So let's break it down. What I'm going to be talking about today is a mortgage product or a mortgage deal called Joint Borrower Sole Proprietor. Now let's break it down. Joint meaning more than one, borrower as in borrowing, and then sole proprietor. Proprietor is a word for ownership. Now I'll give a very basic example to start off with. So you could be a first-time buyer and you just don't have the affordability, but your parents either have no mortgage, they've paid it off completely, or they have a very small mortgage, but they're still working or they have a really decent pension. What you could do is they could go on the mortgage, but not on the deeds. Now, when I mean deeds, I mean title deeds. So when land registry are looking at who owns the property, it's you. But when the bank are looking at who has the liability, who owes the money, it's all of you. So that would be, in this example, you and your mum and your dad. Now, because your parents have a low mortgage or no mortgage, when they're looking at affordability, they obviously have high disposable income. Plus, with your disposable income, can make a significant difference to your affordability. And the brilliant thing about this mortgage, where it differs from if you did a joint mortgage is when you're all on the deeds, land registry, and you're all on the mortgage. Now, when that happens, it affects your tax. Now, for instance, at the moment, you get stamp duty exemption. And at this point of this recording, the first 300k for any first-time buyer is tax exempt. So what I mean by that is you don't have to pay any stamp duty on the first 300k because you're a first-time buyer. Obviously, your parents would, and obviously they may, you assume that they've owned before, they wouldn't be considered a first-time buyer. So if you bought with them, i.e. you're all on the mortgage and you're all going to own the property, then you would lose your first-time buyer status and you wouldn't get the stamp duty exemption. But if you're the only one on the mortgage, if you're on the mortgage with them, but you're the only one actually going to own it, then you still have your first-time buyer status and you can still take advantage of that. There are also other tax implications like capital gains tax, inheritance tax, and things like that. It's always good to speak to your accountant to explain this in a bit more detail. But in a nutshell, if your parents own, not on the mortgage, own outright, own other property, then there is stamp duty. Not only stamp duty, there is when you go to sell it, there'll be capital gains tax and then inheritance tax at some point in time. So this product is great for actually doing what it says on the tin. It's there so you can own your own property, but it also helps with your parents' affordability. Now, when you're looking at this, you're still thinking, well, great, they'll help with the affordability, but what about the deposit? Now, there are different loan to values. Now, what loan to value means is it's the difference between what the property is worth and what the loan is. That's the loan to value. And the difference between those two is made up by the deposit. So, for example, with the Joint Borrower Sole Proprietor, you can do it on 100% LTV, 95 LTV, 90 LTV, 85 LTV, or 80 LTV. Now, what does that mean? Basically, If your property is worth, say, 250,000 and you want to do it on 100% LTV, that means that the property is worth 250,000 and you're borrowing 250,000. You're not putting any money down, i.e. there is no deposit. Now, the one to be concerned about here is if you're concerned about negative equity. This means that the value of the property actually goes down in value. If the property actually goes down in value, say from 250 to 240k, and you owe the whole 250k, the bank will expect you to pay off the whole 250. Now, generally speaking, property is an appreciating asset and it does the majority of the time go up. So negative equity isn't as much of a concern, but it always is good to have a lower loan to value. So for example, when I said 95 LTV, that would mean a 5% deposit. 90 LTV would be a 10% deposit. So in the scenario of the property that's worth 250,000, 10% of that is 25,000. So the loan would be 225,000. You put 25,000 down, and you would own a property worth 250,000. As I said, there's 85 LTV and 80 LTV. 80 LTV would mean 20%. So on that example of 250,000 property, it wouldn't be 10%, the 25,000. It would be 20%, the 50,000. So for that 250,000 property, 50,000 would be the deposit and 200,000 would be the loan. I hope that makes sense. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I'll do another video to explain it in more detail. Now, the good thing about Joint Borrower Sole Proprietor, as I said, is it's great if you haven't got the affordability, because you can use your parents' affordability. So what they'll look at is if they'll look at what your parents' income is, they'll take off any expenses that they have. So that's why I mentioned having a low mortgage. If they've got a high mortgage and they're maxed out, then unfortunately they probably can't help you in this situation. But if they've only got a few years left of their mortgage, they've only got 10, 20,000 left of their mortgage and they're still on a really good salary, or as I said, they've paid off their mortgage and maybe they've got a decent pension, then when they're looking at their disposable income, so that's their income minus all their expenses, and they add that to your income minus your expenses, and that is times by sometimes 4%, it's times by 4 times, 4.5 times, maybe 5 times. You'll need to look in a calculator to be 100% sure that will be the figure that you can borrow. So that's great, right? There's another product that I really wanted to talk about quickly, which is called a buy for uni. Now, I think this is an exceptional product that doesn't get talked about enough. And what this situation is it is for anyone who's 18 or over. The minimum value of the property needs to be 100k. The property needs to be either in England, Wales or mainland Scotland. The location of the property must be close to the university the individual will be attending. Now, to break it down, a buy for uni is when a student buys a property, just like a joint borrower sole proprietor, so they'll need their parents' income as well. Most of the time students aren't earning anything at all. So in this scenario, the student could be earning 0, the parents earning, quite a decent amount. They can then buy this property and the student would live in one of the bedrooms and the other bedrooms would be rented out, and normally that income would be what actually covers the mortgage payments every month. Obviously your parents' income would be down for affordability in order to show that the mortgage can be paid, but the actual payments would be down to that, and I think it's a great product. It's normally a minimum term of 5 years, right up to 40 years, and on the fixed rate element, it isn't actually fixed. It would, some of them are fixed, but the majority of them are variable. And on the loan to value, i.e. how much deposit you have to put down, there is a range. Some are actually 100% loan to value. That means you don't have to put any deposit down at all. All you need is yourself and your parents to confirm that you know, they could cover the mortgage if it needs to be. We need to look at rental income and see if the rental income would cover the mortgage as well. And then there's also an 80 LTV where you put an 80% deposit down. Now, as I said, this is a real great product because it means you can go off to university. You never have to rent. I remember when I was at uni, I rented first in halls of residence, then in private residence till I finally got a job. And then that's when I bought my first property. But for these people who, students who are 18 plus and they just want to go straight into being a property owner, you can do that. There are only a couple of lenders that do it. It's a very specialist product, but I think it's a great product. You're going to university, you can live in one room, rent out the rest of the property. So you could literally, if you're going to a university up north rather than in London where properties are about 100k plus for a house, then it's amazing. You can really, I mean, it's a great product. So if you'd like to know any more about, it's called Buy for Uni or the Joint Borrower Sole Proprietor product. They're both great products for first time buyers. One obviously for students, Buy for Uni. The other one is normally for young professionals or first time buyers who want to get on the property ladder. They're great products. So if you've got any comments in the chat, please feel free. And yeah, and also I'd love for you to subscribe and to ding the bell to know when more videos are going to come. So thank you for your time and take care.